Hey, good afternoon. It is still January 2nd, Thursday afternoon, and I am still that developer dad. And we spent this morning playing around with an SVG. In particular, give me a second here. Dirty, dirty, dirty. I'll just open it up in Safari. Here it are. Just a second, I'll share my screen. Here's this. So we worked on this guy this morning, and I did some playing around in between the break and now. In particular, I went in and edited the actual code that creates this SVG, and I was able to kind of dissect it and figure out what's going on. Now, this view box here, we don't want to mess with that. We want to leave that as is. That comes out of whatever program we built. And if we alter these values here, we then also need to go in and scale all of these coordinates to meet that new scaling. So this just sort of sets up our aspect ratio. If I change things, it goes very, very, very badly. And then I did some basic setup. I'm going to close this, and let's just open this in a preview. Here we go. So there's that. Now, I've got the structure for this is, let's hide that, and we'll hide this. And I'll just pull this window over like so that you can see all of the code. All we've got here is I've got this outer div, and that's just there to position things so that so that the button, or what will become our button, shows up in the middle of the screen with the stuff. And I set up the actual graphic is here, and I gave it an ID of townsfolk button. The class is bigButton. The span class is bigButton text. And if we come over to the CSS, we can see the background image, URL townsfolk min. I could turn this into Sleepy Kitty. I could turn it into, oops, Kitty Blank, like so. All of that stuff, right? But we want the townsfolk min. Save. It's got to be townsfolk min. There it is. Okay. So if we look at the structure of this thing, we can see that for various IDs and so on, we've got all this stuff here. We've got the fill and the stroke, and I'm wondering if I can get in here inside the styles.css and let's say root. I'm not going to mess with that. However, I open the Finder and let's go to TDMF static. Open this up in VS Code. Styles. Here we go. Light accent. accent, light, dark. Let's just grab these. I want to copy those. Paste them in here. Not what I wanted to happen. Ha! Let's try that again. There's CSS things. Open this in Visual Studio Code. Here we go. I want to grab these values. Copy. Paste. Here we go. And I think I need to actually put these in parens here, like so. And we'll just use these CSS color functions. Just like this. Save. Now, something I want to try doing is if I come down to this townsfolk button, I want to try G. How about SVG? And go G. Var. Let's save that. It doesn't look like it did anything for me. 3px black. Let's try var accent. Didn't like that at all. Oh, because there we go. So what I was hoping to get out of here was to do some things with this to get that to get these stroke colors to do what I want them to. So I think instead of going that route, and let's also background color. We'll go var light. And we don't need the RGB there. Okay. So that's all right, but I think I want to invert that. Maybe. Maybe. background image opacity isn't what we want. Background blend mode, composite, color, image, clip. No, that's not quite what we want for any of that stuff. So let's see about getting into the actual SVG itself and manipulating some of these values. And if we can't figure that out, we'll just go another route. So new window, and I'm actually going to use Edge. New window. I'll pop into Copilot. That's fine. I'm using an SVG as the background image for a div. Can I, using CSS, manipulate the colors in that SVG? Each discrete G element within the file does have an ID. Combination of CSS and SVG filters. Color filter like this. Not quite what I want to do. JavaScript to manipulate it. Blah, 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 blah. All right. So instead of doing that, or instead of doing this the way I had thought, I mean, I could just copy and paste the SVG in, but that seems like a terrible idea. Because it's not going to give me the flexibility that I want. Filter URL color filter. No, that's not going to give me what I want either. So what if instead and this might be crazy, I may regret this, but we're not going to use scripts.js. Lang equals JavaScript. And we don't want to add event listeners or any of that nonsense. That's silly. but window dot onload equals function. And I'm just going to do an alert. Hello there. Ah. And we can see the JavaScript alert popped open like that. So cool. We are successfully capturing the window on load. Now, let SVG source equal let button is that let that's not what I want, but button background equals button dot style dot background image alert button background. Probably have to do it over here, not this one. You go over here. How about this one? Reload. This page says nothing. Okay. Excuse me. Elements, how about sources? Here we go. So here's button. Here's all that stuff. Style. Here's all the border. Background image is not set. Which is nonsense. Let's go back to Copilot. Can I use JavaScript to access the SVG data in the background image? Okay, it's rendered as part of the CSS. Okay. Don't want to use inline SVG. Next. Use object or embed tags. Don't want to do that. Blah, 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 blah. This looks like then response, then data, style.fill. Not quite what I want to do, but we can work with that, I bet. So instead of all this nonsense, we'll just let it go. Page says okay. Close that. Pull this guy over here. And let's do we're going to need to keep that button, but let button SVG equal empty string. Fetch assets / townsfolk min dot svg then button SVG response response button SVG equals response dot text. Save. And run over here and see if it works. Page says okay. Page says it didn't do anything. Okay, so button SVG is empty string. All right, fine. Assets, townsfolk, min SVG. Can I step in? Fine. That didn't do a darn thing. Let's try it again. Drop another breakpoint here. Step over. Response is response. Button SVG is still that. Text, method, promise, string, whatever. Stop. Create a variable to store the SVG data. SVG equal quote, quote. All right. Load the SVG data from the file at assets / townsfolk min.svg. Come on, Copilot, don't let me down. Now, I don't want to set that. That's an incorrect assumption, Mr. Copilot. So we'll save that, run and debug. Button SVG is empty. Just let it go. Okay. Let's reload it again. SVG data is nothing, but that's theoretically a lambda. Arguments, doesn't look like it got anything. Excuse me. It is in fact townsfolk min.svg. Yep. And assign to button SVG. Yeah, these aren't, it doesn't look like these are executing. Here we are on our breakpoint. Yeah, so something ain't working here. Maybe I need to go / save, reload. Nope, that didn't do a darn thing. Okay, you know what? I have fallen down a silly rabbit hole, and this is not giving us what I want. Not at all. Now, what I do want to do is keep working in this townsfolk thing, and I think I want to big this up a little bit. bigButton, let's go 300 by 350. That's better. It's a little bigger, a little easier to see. And I think instead of monkeying around with working those colors dynamically and all that nonsense, because that's banana pants, I'm going to keep the townsfolk main copy around just as backup for the time being. But let's come into here and we'll shrink that out. Hey, C Films, how's it going? And what I am going to do, I'm going to pull my styles over here. And let's run this over this way. And let's see here. I think I'm going to change that stroke to and I've got an Apple Note with the different things. Here we go. So let's change the stroke to, instead of this 999, I'm going to go to 29. Save. And you should have seen the stroke color on my background guy change a little bit. There we go. And if we could see that clearly, we'd probably see it as having turned red. Let's turn the stroke width to 10. Okay, and that's just black now. What if we go to 300? F. Okay, so there's that bright screaming red. So we'll take that back to, actually, we'll go to our accent color. So 930C10. And we'll knock this back down to 3. That ain't bad. Yeah. V, V, and V. There we go. Now our fills, I actually want to grab this, and I want to find an online color picker thing. Feed LinkedIn. Here's my LinkedIn. You don't need to see that. Apple T, online, RGB, color picker. Here we go. And what I want to do is grab 147, 12, and 16. So there's that. And I want to grab I want a darker version, but I want to desaturate it a bit. So 102.21.24. Can I get that? Here's the hacks. So there's that. And we're going to make our armorer that. All right. I dig it. Gah. What did I do? Copy. Paste. Paste. Now I want to lighten it. And if I go to, say, 40%, nope, too much. 35%, nope, still too much. 30%. We'll grab that one. And use this for the stone cutter. And then 40%. I actually want to back the saturation off a little bit, so we're going to go to 50%. Grab this for my town crier. Oh, it doesn't like that color at all. Not a bit. Nine nine 3336. Nope. Oh, duh. There we go. That's a little better. And then for the tavern keeper, let's go to a 50% brightness. And actually, I went the wrong direction on that. I want to desaturate, so 40%. All right, digging it. We're going to desaturate more. We're going to go to 25% on this guy. We're going to go even lighter. We're going to go to 60%. Nah, 50%. For the tavern keeper. Cool. Now, I want to use that dark fill color. Actually, no, I'm going to use the stroke color for the text. So we got to pop open the styles. Whoops, don't need that. Hide that. And bigButton color is going to be accent. All right. Font weight. Let's go 700. That's like super bold. Townsfolk. All right. We're getting closer to where we want to go. Now, I've got a Safari window open somewhere. That ain't it. How about here? Here we go, and we want a shimmer. So I looked this up earlier as well, and on the hover, we've got that really cool little thing going on. So that's banana pants. I don't know what bounce hover does. Let's bounce. Nothing. Okay. So here's the button, all of that stuff. Now, dot light. Here's all this background. It's not really a linear gradient there. Background position. Blah, blah, blah. Let's just grab this. See what it gives us. We're gonna have to do some things, I suspect. Oh, Nelly. What are you doing? Let's just grab all of this stuff. Copy. Paste. I'm not going to let the style cop mess with me at this point. So if I come in here and say light, whoa, howdy. That's crazy. Some silly things. Not what I wanted it to do at all. Not even a bit. So that's silly. That's not it at all. Let's get rid of that. Goodbye. All right, but I do want to get a shimmer on this somehow. I'm also not super in love with what if I do this? Accent, border, light, color, light. All right, we're getting somewhere. Now, what if I take, I'm going to have to go get the hex value of light and replace the stroke You know what? I like the look of that. I like the look of this a whole awful lot. That looks pretty good. Now, bigButton, we need a border radius. And we're going to start with 1 rem. And I don't think using the background image is going to work there. So, what if image source equals assets slash townsfolk min dot svg alt equals townsfolk silhouettes That's a little silly looking. Come over to styles, get rid of this. Get rid of that. And that looks okay. But I want a more complex border around this. And instead of 3px, God, I can never remember the CSS drop shadow thing. CSS drop shadow. Box shadow. And color. Accent. 5px. Five px, 5px. All right, and if I go 0, 0, 10, that ain't bad. And let's do some playing over here. So there's the inner inset gold. That's that. Here's this. And let's just play with this a little bit. But, excuse me. Inset length values in a color. Single box shadow using blah, blah, blah. Offset X, offset Y, blur radius, and spread radius. Okay, so in order to get the double, like in order to get the fat sort of thing out there, there's our blur radius. Our spread radius, I want 5 pixels. And I want to tighten that up to 1 pixel. That ain't bad. Now let's go to 1. Okay. And I actually do want a slight blur on this. So let's go with that. And we'll knock the spread Oh, not 32. That's gigantic. So 3, and let's go 5. 5 and 5. Not bad. What if we take it to 10 and pull this back? .5 rem, because we want everything to be proportional. And 1 rem is 16 pixels. So 0.5 gives us 8. 0.25 rem gives us about 4. And I kind of dig that. And let's take this to 0.25 rem. Not bad. Not in love with it. We'll go to 0.125. That takes us down to 2 pixels there. Now, one more thing I want to play with. I'll copy this. Light. And I want to inset it. Now, that looks like a dog's dinner. Or it looks like the aftermath of a dog's dinner. And this doesn't do much for us. What if I move inset to the front of the line? No, that's our offsets. Just rip those out altogether. Inset var light doesn't do anything for us. I'll go ahead and quote the exact hex code. Pound FFFEBD. Five PX, 5PX, 5PX, and screw it, 5 pixels. Now, doesn't like that at all. Okay, I know what I did wrong. When you want to specify multiples, you have to do them as comma separated. And what I'll do is I'll do one on each line. All right, now we can start tweaking. I take that to 0 and 0. And third variable is blur, fourth variable is spread. Not quite what I wanted. Let's bring that up. And that gives us a pretty nice effect, I think. I quite like that. Now, one more thing I'm going to do here is get rid of that extra thing there. Padding, 0.25 rem, so just a quarter of a rem. Here we go. That's good. Let's knock this back down to 200 by 250. Oh, not 2500. I like that. I like that quite a lot. And big button, hover, hover, let's see what this does. We're FAFO, right? Okay, so that really didn't do a whole lot for us. But we've got something that we can iterate on. If I look at my notes, I really feel like I can access the SVG in here. What happens if I go to light, accent? Ew, that's hideous. Background, color, go to accent, light. No, that didn't help. Now, because we've moved the SVG out of the background image of the button, I can move this into here. I can get rid of this ID. That ain't bad. But I think we can do better. And I'm going to monkey with this offline and get that to shimmer for us, I think. And I will get back to you all with that shimmer effect tomorrow. And then we're going to integrate this into the home page of the actual application. So thanks for hanging out while I played with SVG files and tweaking colors within the SVG itself. I hope you get to see some of the anatomy and physiology of how SVGs work and how we can kind of leverage this data-driven graphics format for our web work. I could fall down a rabbit hole and figure out how to ingest these file contents into a JavaScript variable and then swap these values out at runtime dynamically or animate the values or whatever, but I'm not going to mess with that. It can be done. I just don't want to mess with it right now. But it's pretty simple. And then later we can bind this element to a click event to bring us to another web address. But until next time, I am thatDeveloperDad. You are viewing me, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Until tomorrow, happy coding. Take care, everybody.